Now we are going to study an important topic, that is joints. See, if you are studying joints, there are different types of joints in our body. So I'm discussing here what is asked in MCQs, what is important for us. So joints. Joints, they are mainly of three types. Okay, so very easy. Immovable, partially movable, completely movable. Just English, right? Now immovable is also known as fibrous or fixed, or you can also call it as sin. Sin means together, right? Sin arthrosis. Arthro means joint. Now partially movable or cartilaginous. Cartilaginous, you know amphibians, right, which lives both in water and land. So it is amphiarthrosis. Very easy to study, amphiarthrosis. Okay. Now completely movable or synovial joint is a type of synovial, completely movable or synovial. Now we will study the important examples that is asked in many competitive exam. Completely movable or synovial joint. Now the important is, the skull we have sutures, the coronary sutures, sagittal, coronary suture, sagittal suture, everything, our sutures. Next is gomphosis. This is important. The joint between tooth and socket. And there is something known as syndesmosis. We have already discussed here. Syndesmosis means the joint between, that is, you can write it as example, middle radio ulnar joint and superior and inferior tibiofibular joint. These are examples of what? Syndesmosis. So very easy to remember. These are the main example. Immovable, fibrous, fixed or sin. Sutures are not moved, gomphosis cannot be removed, and then see syndesmosis. Clear? Now we will see what are the cartilaginous movement. These are not the full examples, but we are studying here the main example. Primary synchondrosis. Chondro means cartilage, right? So these are temporary joints, not permanent, they are temporary. The examples are first sternocostal joint, This one you have to remember, very important, that primary they will be specifically asking you. And then the next one is joint between epiphysis and diaphysis. While discussing bone, we have discussed, right, the metaphysis, that is a joint between epiphysis and diaphysis. Now next one is laryngeal joints. These are all examples of primary synchondrosis. Now secondary they will become symphysis. Secondary symphysis, they are permanent, they are type of permanent. From the word symphysis, what will be the first example? It will be pubic symphysis, intervertebral joint. Now very important example is here is manubriosternal joint. It is asked in an MCQ. Manubriosternal joint is what type of joint? Manubriosternal joint. The other was sacrum and coccyx. That is a type of a joint. Which one? Amphiarthrosis, cartilaginous. Or they will give you the primary synchondrosis or secondary symphysis. I am repeating, these are not the whole example. Just remember this one, because it will be asked. These are the important asked in many MCQ. Okay, you can add up many things in each column, but at least you have to remember this. We can't remember everything. Now this one, completely movable or synovial joint. All other joints are this one. So we have a lot of completely movable or synovial joint. At least we need to know the types and some example. First one is our ball and socket joint. What is the example? Our shoulder joint, shoulder and hip joint, acetabulum. So this is an example of ball and socket joint. Now, second example is hinge joint. Hinge joint, second type. Here we have elbow joint, angle joint, just by heart, interphalangeal joint. Elbow joint, angle joint and joint between two phalanges comes under hinge joint. Okay. Now, pivot joint. Third one is pivot joint. This pivot joint we have studied. Mid-radioulnar joint is a type of immovable. So remember, superior and inferior radioulnar joint. Superior and inferior radioulnar joint is a type of pivot joint. Okay. Now next one is plain synovial joint. Plain synovial joint. You can add here one more thing. Pivot joint is also known as rotating joint. It is also known as rotating joint. And the other example is atlantoaxial. Our first vertebra and second vertebra. Atlantoaxial joint is a type of pivot joint. Keep in mind that. The examples of plain synovial joint is acromioclavicular joint, intertarsal joint, interphalangeal is here in hinge joint, intertarsal is here, intertarsal joint. Now, next one is saddle or sellar joint. Next type of joint is saddle or sellar joint. Now in plain synovial, now that is clear, right? Tarsal in leg and or carpal in hands. They are clear. In saddle and sellar we have first CMC joint. CMC means carpometacarpal joint and part of knee joint. Knee joint is a compound joint. We have already discussed it. Compound joint is taking many joint types. So saddle or sellar joint, first is carpometacarpal joint and part of knee joint. Now one more here is that is sternoclavicular. Sternoclavicular. Now next type of joint is condyloid or ellipsoid joint. That is the last type. Earlier there were condylar joint, 7 type of joint, but now it is fused with condyloid. Condyloid or ellipsoid joint. Here convex surface attaches to concave. Convex concave attachment. Here our temporomandibular joint, that is one of the main example. The part of knee joint is also condyloid. Part of knee joint. Now wrist joint and MCP also comes under. MCP means metacarpophalangeal. Comes under condyloid or ellipsoid joint. See, it is very difficult to remember, right? See, you can study immovable very fast, right? Then cartilage is not that difficult, but remember, complete your synovial. Ball and socket is by shoulder and hip joint. That is like shoulder joint, we have maximum rotation. Hip joint is we can move. Hinge joint, elbow joint, angle joint, interphalangeal joint. Elbow joint, ankle joint, interphalangeal, and pivot joint or rotating joint, that is superior and inferior radioulnar joint. Don't confuse here. It is mid radioulnar joint is immovable. Superior and inferior radioulnar joint are, remember the interosseous membrane, right? And atlantoaxial, it's a type of what? Pivot joint, asked in many MCQ. Plain synovial joint, examples are acromioclavicular, acromion process and clavicle. You remember that intertarsal or intercarpal, tarsal in leg and carpal in hand. Saddle or sellar joint, the examples are first CMC, carpo-metacarpal joint, part of knee joint, sternoclavicular joint. If someone asks you knee joint is what? It is a type of compound joint. It's having saddle as well as condyle. So part of knee joint and sternum and clavicle. Now, condyloid or ellipsoid joint, convex surface attached to the concave. That is our temporomandibular joint. Now part of knee joint, we know wrist joint and metacarpophalangeal joint. Okay. So if you read 2-3 times, you can by heart this. At least by heart this, and you can add up in each column if you study this. This is the basic thing that is asked in MCQ. Clear? So that is about the 3 types of joint.